The morning sun cast golden rays through the tall windows of Kensington Palace as Catherine, Princess of Wales, stood before her dressing room mirror. Today was no ordinary day. The coronation of King Charles III would mark a historic moment for the British monarchy, and the entire world would be watching. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the delicate sapphire earrings that had once belonged to Princess Diana. Prince William entered the room, already dressed in his formal military uniform. The deep blue fabric was adorned with golden braids and medals that caught the morning light. He noticed the nervous energy radiating from his wife and placed gentle hands on her shoulders. "You look absolutely stunning," he whispered, meeting her eyes in the mirror. Catherine wore an elegant cream-colored dress designed specifically for the occasion, with intricate embroidery that told the story of British heritage through delicate thread work. Down the hallway, their 3 children were experiencing their own mix of excitement and butterflies. 10-year-old Prince George sat on his bed, staring at the formal outfit laid out for him. As second in line to the throne, he understood the weight of this day better than his younger siblings. His little uniform was a miniature version of his father's, complete with tiny medals and ceremonial details. Princess Charlotte, now 8 years old, twirled in her beautiful white dress with puff sleeves and a sash that matched her mother's outfit. She had been practicing her curtsy for weeks, determined to make her parents proud. Her governess had taught her the proper way to hold her head high and keep her back straight during the long ceremony. 5-year-old Prince Louis was the most animated of the 3 children. He bounced around his room, unable to contain his excitement about riding in the grand carriage through the streets of London. His nanny had explained that thousands of people would line the roads to wave at them, and he couldn't wait to wave back. The family's private secretary knocked gently on William's. "Doctor, Your Royal Highness, the vehicles are ready for departure." The time had come to leave the comfort of their home and step into the spotlight of history. As they gathered in the palace's grand entrance hall, the family formed a picture of royal elegance and unity. The children stood close to their parents, their usual playful energy tempered by the significance of the moment. Catherine reached down to smooth Charlotte's hair one final time, while William adjusted George's collar with paternal care. The journey to Westminster Abbey would take them through the heart of London, where crowds had been gathering since dawn. Security teams had been preparing for months, ensuring every detail of the route was safe and secure. The royal protection officers took their positions as the family prepared to enter their ceremonial vehicles. Outside, the sound of gathering crowds could already be heard in the distance. People from all corners of the United Kingdom and beyond had traveled to witness this historic moment. The streets were decorated with British flags and royal banners, creating a festival atmosphere that would welcome the royal family as they made their way to the ancient abbey. Catherine took a deep breath, knowing that in just a few hours, her father-in-law would officially become king, and their lives would change forever. The children would witness history being made, and they would play their own small but important part in the ceremony that would be remembered for generations to come. The ceremonial Rolls-Royce glided smoothly through the gates of Kensington Palace as crowds of photographers captured every moment. William and Catherine sat in the back seat with Prince Louis between them, while George and Charlotte rode in, a second vehicle with their protection officers. The little prince pressed his face against the window, watching the world pass by in wonder. "Mama, look at all the people," Charlotte exclaimed from her car, pointing at the growing crowds lining the streets. Even at 8 years old, she was beginning to understand the magnitude of public attention their family received. Her governess had prepared her for this moment, explaining that people came from far away just to see the royal family. The convoy moved slowly through the streets of London, allowing the thousands of well-wishers to catch glimpses of the royal family. Union Jack flags waved enthusiastically from every direction, and the air was filled with cheers and applause. Street vendors sold commemorative items while families had set up camping chairs along the route, some having waited since the early morning hours. George sat quietly in his vehicle, observing everything with the serious demeanor that was becoming his trademark. At 10 years old, he was acutely aware that he would one day follow in his father's footsteps. His private tutors had spent extra time teaching him about British history and the importance of the monarchy in modern society. Meanwhile, in the lead car, William pointed out landmarks to Lewis, who was bouncing excitedly in his seat. "There's Big Ben, and over there is the London Eye," William said, trying to keep his youngest son engaged and calm. Catherine smiled at the interaction, remembering how nervous she had been during her own first major royal events. The police. Motorcycle escorts cleared the path ahead as the convoy approached Westminster. The ancient area was bustling with activity, as dignitaries from around the world arrived for the historic ceremony. Television crews from dozens of countries had set up their equipment, broadcasting live coverage to millions of viewers worldwide. As they drew closer to Westminster Abbey, the crowds became even more dense. People had climbed onto lampposts and hung out of windows to get better views of the royal procession. The atmosphere was electric with excitement and patriotic pride. Many in the crowd held homemade signs welcoming the new king and celebrating the royal family. Catherine noticed how the children were handling the overwhelming attention. Charlotte waved gracefully from her window, already showing the poise that would serve her well in her future royal duties. George maintained his composure while taking in every detail of the historic moment. Louis continued to bounce with excitement, his infectious enthusiasm bringing smiles to everyone around him. The security team communicated constantly through their earpieces, ensuring that every aspect of the journey proceeded according to plan. Years of preparation had gone into this single day, and nothing could be left to chance. The Metropolitan Police had deployed their finest officers, while the Royal Protection Command maintained their vigilant watch over the precious cargo they were escorting. As Westminster Abbey came into view, its Gothic towers reaching majestically toward the sky, the family could see the red carpet that had been laid out for the arriving guests. Hundreds of international dignitaries, heads of state, and members of the nobility were already making their way into the historic building where English monarchs had been crowned for nearly 1,000 years. The vehicles slowed as they approached the designated arrival area. Soon the doors would open, and the Wales family would step out into the global spotlight, ready to play their part in one of the most significant ceremonies in British history. The moment the car doors opened, a wall of sound hit the royal family. Thousands of camera shutters clicked simultaneously while the roar of the crowd created an almost overwhelming symphony of celebration. William stepped out first, his military uniform gleaming in the afternoon sunlight, and immediately turned to help Catherine emerge gracefully from the vehicle. Catherine's cream dress flowed elegantly as she stood, her composure perfect despite the intensity of the moment. The sapphire earrings caught the light, creating small flashes that the photographers captured with precision. She had spent years learning how to move with grace under such scrutiny, and today all that training showed in every gesture. The children's car arrived moments later, and their emergence created an even louder cheer from the assembled crowd. Prince George stepped out with remarkable dignity for a 10-year-old, his miniature uniform making him look like a young gentleman. He had been practicing this moment with his etiquette instructor, and his perfect posture showed the results of those lessons. Princess Charlotte followed, her white dress pristine and her hair perfectly styled. She gave a small wave to the crowd, which erupted in delighted cheers. Many people in the audience called out compliments about how beautiful she looked, and her shy smile in response charmed everyone watching. Prince Louis bounded out of the car with the uncontainable energy of a 5-year-old. His enthusiastic wave to the crowd drew laughter and applause from the thousands of onlookers. William quickly moved to guide his youngest son, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder to help him focus on the formal proceedings ahead. The family formed a perfect line as they approached the Abbey's entrance. Royal protocol officers discreetly guided them through the precise choreography that had been rehearsed multiple times. Every step had been planned, every moment choreographed to create the perfect image of royal dignity and family unity. Archbishop Justin Welby waited at the entrance to greet the family personally before the ceremony began. His warm smile helped ease any remaining nerves as he exchanged quiet words with William and Catherine. The children stood patiently, their behavior impeccable despite the overwhelming surroundings. Inside the Abbey, the scene was breathtaking. Hundreds of guests filled the ancient pews, representing nations from across the Commonwealth and beyond. The building itself seemed to hum with centuries of history, its stone walls having witnessed countless royal ceremonies throughout the ages. Magnificent floral arrangements adorned every corner, their colors carefully chosen to complement the royal regalia. The Wales family was escorted to their designated seats in the front section, positioned where they would have perfect views of the coronation ceremony. The children sat between their parents, with Louis in the middle, where both William and Catherine could keep a watchful eye on his behavior during the long service. As they settled into their seats, the abbey continued to fill with distinguished guests. World leaders, celebrities, and members of the extended royal family created a gathering unlike any other. The children looked around in wonder at the sheer scale of the event, beginning to understand just how significant this moment truly was. The organist began playing soft ceremonial music, signaling that the formal ceremony would begin soon. Catherine adjusted Charlotte's dress one final time and whispered encouraging words to George, who was taking his role as future heir very seriously. William checked his watch, knowing that in just minutes his father would arrive to be crowned king. The weight of history filled the air as the ancient abbey prepared to witness yet another chapter in the long story of the British monarchy. For the Wales children, this would be a memory that would stay with them forever, shaping their understanding of their roles in the royal family and their future responsibilities to the nation. The sound of trumpets filled Westminster Abbey as the coronation ceremony officially began. 2,000 guests rose to their feet in perfect unison, the rustle of formal clothing and the movement of ceremonial uniforms creating a wave of anticipation that swept through the ancient building. The Wales family stood with the rest of the congregation, their children's eyes wide with amazement at the grandeur surrounding them. King Charles III entered the abbey in full ceremonial regalia, his presence commanding the attention of everyone present. The weight of centuries seemed to rest on his shoulders as he walked slowly down the aisle, followed by a procession of clergy, nobles, and military officers in their finest dress uniforms. The children had never seen their grandfather look so regal, and the significance of the moment began to truly sink in. Prince George watched intently as his grandfather approached the coronation chair, the same throne that had been used for the crowning of monarchs since 1308. His history tutors had taught him about the stone of Scone beneath the seat and the countless kings and queens who had sat there before. Now he was witnessing his own family becoming part of that ancient tradition. Princess Charlotte's attention was captured by the elaborate ceremonies being performed by the Archbishop of Canterbury. The religious aspects of the coronation fascinated her, especially the beautiful singing of the Abbey choir. Their voices seemed to reach every corner of the massive stone building, creating an atmosphere of reverence and celebration that made the hair on her arms stand up. Prince Louis, despite his young age, seemed to understand that something very special was happening. He sat quietly between his parents, occasionally whispering questions to his mother about what was taking place. Catherine patiently answered each query in hushed tones, helping him understand the historic significance of what they were witnessing. The moment of the actual crowning approached, and the entire abbey fell into complete silence. The only sounds were the Archbishop's ceremonial words and the soft echo of footsteps on the stone floor. Even the youngest children in the congregation seemed to sense the gravity of the moment, sitting perfectly still as history unfolded before their eyes. As the crown was placed upon Charles's head, officially making him King Charles III, the abbey erupted in celebration. "God Save the King" rang out from thousands of voices, creating a sound so powerful it seemed to shake the ancient walls. The Wales children joined in the singing, their young voices adding to the chorus of celebration that marked this historic transition. William felt a complex mix of emotions as he watched his father being crowned. Pride, joy, and a deep understanding of what lay ahead for their family filled his heart. He glanced at Catherine, seeing the same mixture of feelings reflected in her eyes. Their children were witnessing the moment that would define their own futures, seeing firsthand the weight of responsibility that comes with royal duty. The ceremony continued with ancient rituals that had been performed for centuries. The presentation of the royal regalia, the anointing with holy oil, and the formal oaths all proceeded according to traditions that connected this modern coronation to countless others throughout British history. The children observed everything, with fascination, storing away memories that would last their entire lives. Camera crews positioned throughout the abbey captured every moment for the millions of viewers watching around the world. The Wales family appeared on screens in countries across the globe, their elegant presence and the children's perfect behavior earning admiration from international audiences. As the religious portion of the ceremony drew to a close, the family prepared for the procession that would take the newly crowned king back to Buckingham Palace. The children had been briefed about their roles in the celebration that would follow, and they were ready to continue representing their family with the dignity and grace they had shown throughout the morning. The procession from Westminster Abbey back to Buckingham Palace transformed London into a magnificent spectacle of pageantry and celebration. The Wales family emerged from the abbey to find the afternoon sun breaking through the clouds, as if nature itself was celebrating the historic coronation. The streets were lined with even more people than before, creating a sea of Union Jack flags and cheering faces that stretched as far as the eye could see. The newly crowned King Charles III led the procession in the magnificent gold state coach, a vehicle that had carried monarchs for state occasions since 1762. Behind him, the Wales family rode in their ceremonial carriage, waving to the enthusiastic crowds that had waited hours for this moment. The children's faces showed pure wonder as they experienced their first major royal procession. Prince George sat up straight in the carriage, conscious of his role as future heir to the throne. He had been practicing his royal wave for weeks, and now he used that training as thousands of people called out his name and took his photograph. His serious expression occasionally broke into a genuine smile when he spotted children in the crowd waving British flags or holding handmade signs. Princess Charlotte was completely enchanted by the experience. She waved continuously to the crowds, her natural charm and grace already showing signs of the skilled royal she would one day become. When she spotted other young girls in pretty dresses among the spectators, she made sure to wave directly to them, creating magical moments that those families would remember forever. Prince Louis provided the most spontaneous entertainment for the crowds. His excitement was infectious as he bounced in his seat, pointed at interesting sights along the route, and waved enthusiastically to everyone he could see. When he spotted a group of school children holding a banner with his name on it, his delighted reaction drew laughter and applause from nearby spectators. William and Catherine watched their children with pride, seeing how naturally they were handling this overwhelming experience. The princess had worried about how the little ones would cope with such intense public attention, but they were proving themselves to be true professionals, even at their young ages. The route through London showcased the city at its finest. Every building seemed to be decorated with royal banners and British flags, while the famous landmarks provided a stunning backdrop for the historic procession. Crowds had gathered on rooftops, leaned out of office windows and filled every available viewing space to catch a glimpse of their royal family. Street performers entertained the waiting crowds, military bands played patriotic music at strategic locations, and the atmosphere was one of pure celebration. People had traveled from across the United Kingdom and beyond to be part of this moment, creating a festival atmosphere that transformed the entire city into a giant party. Television helicopters circled overhead, broadcasting live coverage of the procession to viewers around the world. The images of the smiling royal children waving from their carriage were being watched by hundreds of millions of people across the globe, creating memories that would be replayed for decades to come. As the procession approached Buckingham Palace, the crowds became even more enthusiastic. The famous balcony of the palace was already prepared for the traditional appearance that would conclude the day's public celebrations. Palace staff had positioned themselves strategically to ensure everything would proceed perfectly for the grand finale. The gates of Buckingham Palace came into view, and the children pressed closer to the carriage windows to see their grandfather's official residence decorated for the coronation celebration. Thousands of people had gathered in front of the palace, creating a human carpet of celebration that would greet the royal family when they appeared on the famous balcony. The carriage wheels crunched on the gravel of the palace courtyard as they arrived at their destination, ready for the final act of this historic day that had already exceeded everyone's expectations. Inside Buckingham Palace, the Wales family had a few precious moments to catch their breath before the final public appearance of the day. The children's excitement had reached fever pitch as they realized they were about to step onto the famous balcony that they had seen in so many photographs and news broadcasts. Palace staff quickly checked their appearances, ensuring every detail was perfect for the cameras that would capture this culminating moment. The sound from outside was incredible. Thousands of voices chanted, "God save the King," while others simply cheered and applauded, creating a wall of sound that penetrated even the thick walls of the palace. Through the windows, the family could see the massive crowd that had gathered in front of the building, stretching back toward the Victoria Memorial and filling every available space. King Charles III, still wearing his crown and ceremonial robes, prepared to make his first appearance as monarch from the balcony. His face showed the emotional weight of the day, the culmination of decades of preparation for this role. William placed a supportive hand on his father's shoulder, a gesture that spoke volumes about their relationship and the unity of their family. The children were given final instructions about where to stand and how to behave during the balcony appearance. Princess Charlotte smoothed down her dress one last time, while Prince George checked that his medals were properly positioned. Prince Louis bounced on his toes with anticipation, barely able to contain his excitement about waving to the enormous crowd below. As the doors to the balcony opened, the roar from the crowd intensified dramatically. The newly crowned king stepped out first, raising his hand in acknowledgement of his subjects' celebration. The sight of him in his full regalia, crown gleaming in the afternoon sunlight, sent waves of cheers rippling through the assembled thousands. William and Catherine followed, with their children, and the crowd's reaction reached an even higher level. The sight of the young family, representing the future of the monarchy, created an emotional response that brought tears to many eyes in the crowd below. People who had waited all day for this moment felt their patience rewarded by the magical sight of 5 generations of royalty standing together. The children took their positions on the balcony with remarkable composure. Prince George stood tall and proud, understanding the significance of this moment in British history. His wave was measured and dignified, already showing hints of the statesman he would one day become. The crowd responded to his serious demeanor with respectful applause and admiration. Princess Charlotte's natural charisma shone brightly as she waved to the crowd with infectious enthusiasm. Her smile was radiant, and when she spotted children among the spectators, she made sure to wave directly to them, creating connections that would be treasured memories for those young witnesses to history. Prince Louis stole the show with his unbridled joy and excitement. His animated waving and obvious delight at being part of such a grand celebration drew laughter and cheers from the crowd. His authentic, childlike wonder reminded everyone watching that despite the formality and tradition, this was ultimately a family celebration. The traditional flypast by the Royal Air Force provided the perfect finale to the day's events. As the aircraft approached, the family looked up in unison, their faces filled with awe at the precision formation flying overhead. The red arrows trailing their red, white, and blue smoke created a patriotic display that brought the coronation celebration to its spectacular conclusion. As the family waved their final goodbyes and stepped back into the palace, they carried with them the memory of a perfect day. The children had experienced history firsthand, playing their part in a ceremony that connected them to centuries of British tradition, while looking forward to their own futures as members of the royal family. The coronation of King Charles III had been completed, and a new chapter in the story of the British monarchy had begun with the Wales family prominently featured in its pages.